Let's see. All right, guys, I think we're live. Hello, welcome. Dan, Adam, can you hear me?
We can.
Gotcha.
Hey, you guys. I feel like it's been a long time since I've seen you both, but it's really just because we've had like an awesome long weekend or an awesome long weekend on my end. How was everyone's Memorial Day weekend?
Mine was great. We didn't. We were supposed to go somewhere originally. Those plans fell through, so we just sort of had a stay-at-home weekend. Went over to the Spa State Park, which is just a gem. Took the kids and the puppy over there, and just enjoyed that immensely. And one day, just in the backyard, it was really nice.
Did you go to the Lumineers concert? I feel like everyone I know was at the Lumineers concert.
I did. I went.
You were there?
Yeah.
Was it good? I heard it was great.
Yeah. First, I can't believe how many people liked the Lumineers or how busy it was. It was unbelievable.
I know.
I know they got that one song, "Hey Ho,"
Yes.
"Ho Ha," but after that, my wife wanted to go, my sister wanted to go, so we kind of left the kids with grandma and we went, and the concert was a blast, the crowd was a blast. It's just good to be doing these things in Saratoga again.
Wait, Adam, I thought I was the only one that felt that way. I was like, wait a minute, the Lumineers, I know that one song, "Ho Hum" or whatever. So
yeah.
Being the oldest,
great. Again, the Lumineers were good. I'm not a huge Lumineers fan, but the atmosphere was just incredible. It was a perfect day. The crowd was great. It just was a kind of a nice event to go to and to see people being people again after the years we've been through.
Absolutely.
Being that I'm the oldest one of the group, I hate to admit this to the world, but even though they've been here and gone, I still have no idea who the Lumineers are. What besides that?
Robin, sing the song a little bit for you. You got a good voice.
No, I literally almost did for a second. No, I have a terrible voice. Dan, I will send you their biggest hit after this, and I feel like you'll definitely recognize it.
Is this a biggest hit from 2 years ago or 20 years ago?
No. Like within the last 3 or 4 years, maybe.
Okay.
And it's been on the kind of top 40, but it's not hip hop or rap.
I've become my father. I've become my father. I have no idea who the new bands are. Luckily, my daughter is going to be 9 in September, and my other daughter will be 5 next week. So I think I'll be getting back in the reality, whether I want to or not.
Yeah. Well, Adam and I will keep you young, right, Adam?
Yeah, I got 11-year-olds. So does Robin's got a little older kids too. So we're our toes are in the pool, as they say, with what's TikToking now and what's trending in the Twitter sphere.
Oh yeah,
we'll keep you posted.
Okay.
I've got 3 birthdays this month, you guys. I might be losing it a little bit by the time we get to the end of June. I'll go from a 5-year-old, a 9, 10, and 11-year-old till I don't even know. I can't even do the math. It's too confusing. Too many kids in my house.
How was your weekend, Robin?
It was great. We were here. The only downside of my weekend was that I kind of forgot that when you're in the sun and it's summertime, you might want to put on a little sunblock. So I got scorched by the sun on Sunday and Monday. And hopefully I'm far enough away you can't tell. My lips are enormous and blistered, and my skin's peeling. And I learned that sunblock kind of an important thing.
You had a half desperate, half funny Facebook post, very funny, about searching for somebody that understands, a third parent or something. That was really funny.
So and parents out there, I don't know if you guys are all experiencing this the way I am. I have 4 kids. They're ages 5 to 11. The month of June is insanity. 2 of my kids in elementary school, every single day, they either have a field trip, a picnic, a special party, a theme day, and trying to figure it all out, it broke my brain. Literally broke my brain. And I was like, I need a third parent. Minimum qualifications are knowing how to read a calendar, tell time, and keep human children alive. That's all I need. But so yeah, any applicants, just show up at my house. You don't even need to call me. Show up at my house. We're on the spot hiring, and just the month of June. That's it. But man, it's chaotic.
Yeah, I feel now it's and I don't remember this growing up. Maybe it was, but it's everything's a graduation now, right? You're graduating from this or that, or this grade or this school or this. Before graduation was, maybe elementary school, but high school. Now it's every grade you got to go to a graduation for. So
you don't think it's a big accomplishment that my kids finish pre-K and we're gonna have a moving up celebration because he's matriculating?
Yes, yeah. Probably on a Saturday at 2 p.m. So it takes the whole day, But
oh yeah,
congratulations on that.
Madness.
You got to get gifts. You got to get them gifts.
Oh God, well they all had birthdays. That's enough gifts.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to Talking Saratoga, a weekly podcast about the latest news, discussion, and debate in the city of Saratoga Springs, a place that has never suffered from a shortage of opinions. We've got lots to talk about in terms of news here. And I know the kind of headline for me that I wanted to talk about with you guys was public safety. So it's officially June, right? We know that back in March, our current public safety commissioner, James Montenegro, defunded the assistant chief of police line. And his rationale behind that was that he was going to take that money and put it towards hiring new patrol officers. Well, I just want to go on record now and tell you that I've confirmed with City Hall, as of today, June 2nd, we have hired zero, no new police officers have been hired as of today by the Public Safety Department and Commissioner Montenegro. So that promise that he was defunding a line to put more boots on the ground was not true. That has not happened. And we have lost almost 20 people in public safety since he's been in office. At least 13 of those people have been sworn officers. So we are going into the summer with record low staffing, an epidemic of gun violence in our country, issues on Caroline Street that have come to a head that we still haven't addressed, and not one single new hire. And that to me is pretty terrifying. And Dan, as you know, with all your law enforcement expertise, I would love to get your thoughts on the situation we're in.
Well, and the key is you can't just hire a cop tomorrow,
No.
with some exceptions, some transfers and so forth. But essentially, that's as both of you know, that's like a year-long process to canvass the civil service list, do a background check, wait for an academy to start.
Yeah.
Academy goes 6 months, then 12 weeks of field training. So if you intend to hire a cop and you decide today to do it, it's going to take you at least a year before that police officer gets on the street. Like I said, unless you happen to get a transfer, but people are leaving Saratoga. Nobody seems to be coming to Saratoga.
And the academy's in July, I might add. So that's when the academy.
Okay.
Yeah. So we wouldn't be able to hire someone to get them into the academy this July. Like it's already too late.
And even if they did, it wouldn't be till next April before they were completed with everything.
Exactly.
So there's no help this summer whatsoever. That is, I share your concerns on this, Robin.
And the other element of this is that I know the state park police, which Dan, you can also speak to, are facing a real crisis in terms of staffing and manpower. And that's something that's really important here because the state park and SPAC and the concerts that happen there, the state park police are the ones that are, the law enforcement there. So when they're down bodies in the state park and we have Dave Matthews coming or, Fish or whatever, they are asking us for help. And we are not in a position to provide anything at this point.
Yeah, and as you know, you alluded to it. I once represented the state park police amongst other police agencies, and they have been dying on the vine for many reasons, for many years, but especially in the past 2 years, roughly, when then Governor Cuomo kind of put them under the auspices of the state police. But then their career path essentially died. They had no promotions, they had no hirings, and it was just a police agency dying on the vine. And that's continuing to happen. They were once well over 300 sworn members. They're down, I'm going to guess, 160, 170 now, statewide. And Long Island, and anyone who knows Long Island, there are a lot of state parks and state beaches on Long Island. So the bulk of them are down there. So we get a paltry few upstate. And that is a concern of mine as well. And both Cuomo and now the Hochul administration have just continued allowing that agency to die on the vine.
Yeah, it's this. I saw a story on Spectrum News about Ithaca, and they essentially have this, a reimagined police initiative that they're now reimagining their police initiative because this whole idea of defund the police and cut back on those numbers and in theory it may have made sense at the time. Let's reinvest in mental health but none of that's happening, right? So what we're having now is less and less police officers and nothing else. And so inevitably that's going to lead to more and more crime, like we're starting to see, and worse response times, which as a community is something that shouldn't be acceptable. Robin, from a budgetary standpoint, being the numbers guy, what happens when you're down 13 officers? Does that mean more overtime? I mean, theoretically, this could cost the city money, no?
Sure. So I do know that that's what's been going on, that Commissioner Montenegro has been trying to move more money into the overtime line for the summer. The problem with that is that, last summer, I can tell you, we were, staffed up I wanted more people, but we were adequately staffed going into the summer. By the first week in July, we were so burned out. The officers were so exhausted and spent from, reopening and the intensity of just reopening from May to the first week in July. And it doesn't matter how much overtime you want to offer them. They don't want to do it. They're exhausted, and paying a police officer to work overtime when they don't want to be there, when they're tired, they're stressed, they've been through the ringer. There's not enough. That's not a solution. I mean, that's putting people, the officers and the public, even more at risk. And this is coming from Commissioner Montagnino, who took such issue with the fact that we had gone to 12-hour shifts because he felt that was too long for a police officer to be on duty, that it was dangerous for them to be working that long. He wanted to go back to 8-hour shifts. And so, all these things are so contradictory. But this idea that you could just throw money in the overtime line and that's going to solve the problem, that solves nothing.
You're absolutely right about the burnout, the stress. Then that turns into sick leave, so you have fewer cops. That turns into more attrition losses because they say, time for me to retire. If I'm getting forced in every weekend, I'm when you're 25 years old and you're a cop, it's fun. You can't get enough rock and roll. When you're 50 and you're a cop, you're like, what am I still doing here? I can retire, and you do. And Jim Montagnino, through what I see as mismanagement, is hastening that process.
Our drug investigation unit has also been done away with. It is no longer. He is getting rid of our specialized units. And I find that to also be really troubling because, when I was running for office, part of the platform I was running on was creating more specialized divisions, because some of the problems we have with attrition are the fact that our police officers day in and day out are doing the same thing. They're going out on patrol, dealing with the same stuff every day. And if they have specific interests, whether it's doing DWIs, whether it's, any multitude of things, there's no opportunity for them to pursue that interest in our department. There's no opportunity for career growth and education in any one specific area because they're just on general patrol every single day. And
what I was going to say, what scares me about that, and growing up in Saratoga, I remember there was weed, right? That's the drug I saw. I never saw crack. I never saw, and I wouldn't say it's because I was running, with the good kids. It was. I dabbled with everybody, but
you were a partier, Adam. We know it.
Yeah, cocaine, crack, heroin. Fentanyl. What is fentanyl? And now it seems everybody knows somebody locally who is either lost somebody to heroin or fentanyl, or has been affected or addicted to heroin and fentanyl. And this is real now. This is in Saratoga. So the idea of there's not a people kind of looking after this and it's an epidemic is, again, it's a little bit scary being a parent here, knowing that these drugs are out there, and who's besides the parent, but the parent can't always be protecting your kid. Who's out there helping you protect your kid against these these horrible drugs that just ruin lives?
When it comes to fentanyl, I think it's really important to continue to get this message out. Fentanyl is straight poison. It's the strongest opioid that we've ever had as humans to take, that we've ever developed. And what's happened is that it's being mixed in with other drugs, whether it's being put into pills that look like they're oxycodone or whatever, or it's cut into cocaine. And so people are taking heroin, cocaine, they're taking, a painkiller that they think is just that. And it's got fentanyl mixed in with it, which is basically instant death. Yeah. And so Narcan, which is that spray that's sprayed up your nose, which is basically the best life-saving measure we have for someone who's overdosing from an opioid, that is critical. And it literally can bring these people back to life who otherwise would be dead and gone. And I've seen it. The police department's trained on it. They all have Narcan. I had Narcan at my desk at City Hall. We all had it. And so just for anyone who, knows somebody who might be in a dangerous situation in terms of drugs, or you happen to be in a situation where someone's overdosing, please, call the police immediately. And Narcan is going to be the life-saving element there. But yeah, it is really terrifying. And I think at the concerts, especially it's back, there's a lot of drug use there, a lot. And it's really concerning.
Yeah, let's transition into kind of more national politics, because Dan, this is something that's this gun epidemic. It's unfortunately it's not going away. It's
No, it's not.
it's a weekly occurrence now. The school district police chief, I believe, in Texas is coming under a lot of heat right now, Dan, for giving the order not to breach that classroom. As you know, I've said, were the police heroes that day? No. Were they cowards? Maybe. But Dan, what is as a police officer, what is your insight into that, into the decision not to breach, to wait outside, to hold the line there for a little while?
That goes against everything. Now, I was a police officer mostly pre-Columbine. It was a lot safer then. It was there were mass shootings, but they were rare. But since Columbine and other shootings, the training has been pretty clear. You got to go in. You go in because otherwise these kids or whoever are the victims are going to die. So I don't know every last detail of what happened there, but that was a major botch that went against everything of training for the past 20 years. And that police department, everything they say is wrong. They say something one day, and the next day they got to correct what they said the day before. That is really, to see such an ineptitude on such an important issue. And they seem to have resources. Texas puts resources into their law enforcement, a lot of cops, and yet they really botched everything, it seems.
I want to jump in because I actually went with the police department to their active shooter training drills that they do at the high school. It was in 2020 during winter break. They go into the high school and they run for days, like for almost the whole week. They run all these active shooter drills, just like day in and day out. And it was really almost disturbing to see the drills because you're like watching how this would play out. And they have, they basically set it up. Dan, you would know this. They set it up so that, that a call comes in. They do it like it's real life. A call comes in, a shooter or something's been reported in some classroom, and they all go in and they've got guns that have like kind of blanks in them or little pellets. And so they run through the whole scenario. And it is, I'm so happy that our police department trains the way they do and is prepared the way they're prepared. But the reality is, this gun violence is not ending. I don't think it's ever going to end until we have federal legislation that addresses it. But last summer in Saratoga Springs, we took off a record number of guns off of the city streets last summer, a record number. Chief Crook said in the history of the department, we've never seen so many guns in Saratoga. And that makes me terrified because this city, SPAC, the track, downtown, a mass casualty situation, I feel like we're very vulnerable. I mean, I don't know if I'm being an alarmist here, but I feel like we're very vulnerable to that kind of a tragedy.
There's such large gatherings here that just like the Las Vegas concert shooting a few years back, there are so many situations here in Saratoga where that is the case. And let's face it, Saratoga attracts all the good and all the bad. And obviously that's really bad. And I could see some, I don't want to be alarmist either or plant ideas, but that is a concern.
Yeah, that's something that's, to segue a little bit, that's really, when I describe the track to people who never been there, you have the down on their luck, degenerate gambler, alcoholic, up until the sheikhs of Dubai and everywhere in between at our track. So that is something that in the past has made our track unique. But again, with this epidemic going on right now with gun violence, it's scary to think of, who's these essentially soft targets that we have in Saratoga, and how they can be exploited for evil.
And often in the city, I know some of the crime we see that's associated with the track or gambling that, we have in Saratoga, it's people who are robbing banks, and it's people who are stealing to offset, their loss, whether it's at the track or the racine or whatever. That's traditionally has been the kind of violence we've seen associated with the gambling here. And I know that the last time we discharged a weapon in the city was back in 1998. And it was after someone had, I believe, robbed a bank. But anyway, going into the summer, I don't know what to do to get the city council, to get them to kind of wake up and take the situation more urgently, because it's just not something I can sit back and accept. You guys know where I live. I live right downtown. I live on Lower Caroline Street between Circular and Henry. I have 4 kids. I'm going into the summer thinking like this is going to be truly dangerous. Like I'm truly concerned. And it's wildly frustrating that I have a city government and a city council who's not responsive to the concerns of a mother like me and a resident like me. Like what can we do to get someone's attention here to put some pressure on them to beef up our public safety?
And now is the time, right? It's June.
Yeah.
In March you can skate, right? Because there's not
Yeah.
too many people outside and so forth. But the next 3 months are going to be very active in the city. And if something is to happen, it's going to happen soon. And yet they're, as you pointed out, they're losing all these police officers, and they're just not geared up for what could be coming.
We now only go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, it sounds like from talking to you two, no better. This could take a year to solve. So, and I know, Robin, I'm thinking back a year ago, looking at Facebook memories, running for office. In a year from now, there's going to be campaigns going on, and there's going to be people trying to get elected. So if this is a problem a year from now, I think it's how to get people to listen is going to be much more. The Saratoga voter has to do a better job of not voting party lines. Of looking at actual candidates and what candidates stand for and what they're going to do and what their ideas are, not just this this broad kind of partisan viewpoint of I'm going to vote this X line X or Y, because again, like I think our viewers know, we don't really align with either side, right? We're gun control, pro SRO. It's a great example. So.
But I think it's the connecting people to when they're upset about the violence downtown, making that connection as to who's responsible for the issues that we're having, and what we can do as a city. Like there's going to be a direct correlation to the summer's violence and how things are going downtown, and Commissioner Montanino and the actions that he's taken. Adam, you think it's going to take, back in 2009, where last time we had layoffs in the city, in the police department, that took us 10 years to recover from. In 2019, we returned to 2009 staffing levels. And that was nothing compared to the exodus we've just seen in the last 3 or 4 months. So I think it's going to take us years and years and years to put this police department back together.
Well, let's just say I hope we're wrong. I hope there's something that we're missing here. And if we are, we'd love to hear it. But, we're praying for a peaceful summer, but not without being alarmist, but being realist. It doesn't look like we have the staffing and the morale to get through this summer without some incidents. But hopefully we're wrong.
And folks, whether you're a public official out there watching this or just somebody that lives on Clark Street, if you want to propose being a guest on our show with something to talk about, we obviously can't accept all requests, but we're open to looking at them all. So please get a hold of us if you'd like to be on the show.
Yes, and we should let people know we are going to have a special taped podcast coming up pretty soon, just discussing the Caroline Street nightlife issues with some special guests who have some great insight on it. But I think, like you said, Dan, now is the time to be brainstorming and talking about this, because we don't want to wait until it's too late. Something's happened. We've had some tragedy occur. We can't put this on pause.
Yeah. I have one last thing on this, and then if you guys we can move on. But I put in our agenda this time. We actually have a stabbing section of our agenda this week, because there's two pieces of stabbing news. One on a stabbing from last year, but there was a bit of a melee. It sounds like a gang fight of sorts over at the Woodlawn Avenue parking garage last week, and somebody got stabbed by an 18-year-old. 18-year-old just got arrested in the past day or two for the stabbing. And then as well, last week there was a stabbing on Caroline Street a year ago, and the suspect was convicted and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Wow, that's a significant sentence. But my point in all this is, we're talking about stabbings like it's the weather. There's guns, stabbing, shooting. We never talked about these things as recently as 3 years ago in Saratoga Springs.
Wait, Dan, can you explain to me how a guy who did the stabbing gets 40 years in prison? One of the brothers who killed the man at Clancy's, he got sentenced to 4.5 years.
Well, you just kind of segued me to the issue of the DA's race. You guys mind if I tee that up for us?
No, please do. Yeah.
Okay, folks, there is a district attorney's race, and it's pretty spirited at this point with a
Yeah.
Democratic challenger, which we have not seen for I've not seen in my whole time here, at least a strong candidate. Michael Phillips is the district attorney, and he's active. He is he is slugging at Karen Hagan left and right. He talked about that, Robin. He's talking about the sentencing of James Garofalo, who is the 28-year-old quote barroom bully that punched a retired correction officer, Mark French, who died outside of Clancy's. I believe that was 2 years ago, perhaps.
No, it was last summer.
It was recently as last summer. Okay, yes, you are correct. And he's pointing out that how is justice served if this subject only got 4.5 years, and 4.5 doesn't mean 4.5. 4.5 sometimes means 3, right? And things like that. And he's pointing out the boating death on Saratoga Lake last summer.
Yes.
He's taking shots at her for the Nexum cult, not doing anything about that and while she was either quote DA or assistant DA, failing to prosecute ballot fraud in Saratoga, not properly investigate the death of Ian Gerber last year. That was I believe the boating incident. And then he points out several times in this press release here that Hagan has never faced a general election contest since becoming district attorney in 2014. She's never been held accountable. Folks, I'm not going to predict Karen Hagan's going to lose, but she's going to have to earn it.
I'd love Adam. I don't mean to keep interrupting. Do you want to weigh in on this before
No.
Okay. So I have lots to say about this. Karen Hagan actually just faced a really strong primary challenge from a man named Jim Davis. Sorry, I keep getting phone calls, guys. Sorry, hold on. There, I'm back. She just faced a very strong challenge within the Republican Party from a man named Jim Davis, and she barely squeaked out the endorsement of Republicans. Traditionally, it's been almost impossible for a Democrat to win the DA's race because the county has just been so heavily Republican. But my experience with Karen Hagan is that she's the type of person she's a hard worker. She's in the office working hard, but she's not a public facing person. She's not someone who's going to do press conferences. She doesn't want to be out there, shaking hands, telling people what's going on. We never hear from her. I never see her talking about these convictions, talking about these public safety issues in a way where she's kind of informing the public what's going on, what people are being charged with, or why a sentence was what it was. There's nothing. I get radio silence. And to me, that's really frustrating. And a lot of these sentencing issues, or a lot of the criminal issues we've seen in the county, I think need to be addressed. I would like to hear about them from our DA, and I find it disappointing that we never hear from her on these issues. And I think that Michael Phillips faces an uphill battle simply because of the party issue and the county being so heavily Republican. But my other issue with our current DA, with Karen Hagan, is that she is extremely close with the county Republican Party. And I think there's been too much politics happening in our DA's office. And I would like to see less politics and more justice.
That is, sorry, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no. I was going to say, Dan, to your point earlier that you're right. This waving around, somebody gets murdered on Caroline Street, they get 4.5 years, and the DA saying that that's a victory and that justice is served, to me is a little insane. People should feel like they could go out in Caroline Street and not be assaulted. And especially if somebody's killed, that this is not something that 4.5 years is that's not justice, right? For this retired correctionals family, they'll never see their father, their brother, their grandfather again. I don't know that he was a grandfather, but you understand the point. That is not sending a message that this can't happen in our city. And going back to the stabbing in the Woodlawn parking garage, I think that goes back to our, how many police, we have on the ground patrolling. This was a large group congregating there in these, and we've all seen in our parking garages, whether it be the homeless, apparently teenagers are doing it now. If we had more broken window policing of police going up into these groups and kind of shooing them off, this might not have happened, but we don't have the police force for that. that. And so you have these elements gathering in the dark corners, the dark alleys, really, and we're being reactive, not proactive to these things. And it's causing stabbings in an 8 o'clock at night on a block off of Broadway. It's nuts.
So the Woodlawn situation was a problem that I dealt with all the time. There's a group of people who I would describe as kind of vagrants. They're homeless, but they are choosing to live a lifestyle of typically that has to do with a lot of drug addiction is fueling a lot of it, and mental health issues, but they're not seeking shelter. They're a group that is being, Shelters of Saratoga is constantly trying to reach out to and work with to get them into some kind of transitional housing, some kind of temporary shelter, but that's not what they want. They want to be outside. They want to be with the people around them who, are doing the drugs and drinking, whatever. The problem is we now have like kids, teenagers, like you said, who kind of think it's cool to be over there with them. And the drug element is what makes me so nervous. I mean, they're buying drugs off of this group and getting mixed up with people who are have some serious issues and are dangerous and violent to an extent. But we had been working on addressing that by having, regular patrols, working with Shelters of Saratoga to really, get that group to either go into the Salvation Army, where we were offering shelter, services, etc., or they have to move on. They can't set up. There's literally like furniture over there sometimes, like beds set up, yes, chairs. I mean, it's like they've moved in and like decorated. It's crazy. And driving by lately, I've never seen it this bad. But again, if you don't have law enforcement working with social services to address that issue, it's just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah.
The only other solution,
Dan, is there any other? I know this mental health thing is being tossed around all in the gun debate now and in the crime debate. But yes, mental health resources are important. But again, the short-term issues. Is there an easier, quicker way to solve it than with more police on the ground, more broken window policing?
I think it's multifaceted, right? It's more than just policing, right? And you touched on that. And I don't know if I have an answer for this, because obviously they have certain rights to be there, and as long as they're not committing offenses, this is something that I think we're going to continue dealing with for a long time.
So I can tell you what I proposed for Woodlawn. Like, I had one possible solution that I wanted to try. What we were going to do was implement paid parking at the Woodlawn garage for 3 months as a trial. And, the amount was minimal that people would be paying, but it would be enough such that we could fund a permanent officer being there, like permanent security at the Woodlawn garage, and people would have to pay to go in. And a lot of the issues we have there aren't just the people who are kind of vagrants, homeless, hanging out on the street level. It's that kids are going up to the top level at night and they're partying. They're doing drag races. They're having parties at the top level of the garage. And so by making it a paid situation, just that I think would deter some of those kids. And then also it would fund, extra security and extra law enforcement that would be right there on site. And so again, it was something I wanted to try for 3 months. I couldn't get a hold of Todd Shimkus in the Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted to talk it through with them, as well as obviously like the DVA and special assessment and the stakeholders in the business community, just to make sure they were on board with trying this out before we implemented it. Unfortunately, I never, heard anything back from the chamber. So I didn't have enough time to try it. And I didn't want to take those steps without making sure the business community was okay with it, because obviously parking is pretty vitally important to our downtown businesses. But to me, that was the only thing I could come up with,
I was thinking it was outside the box.
Something.
Maybe they need to do that. I don't see this issue being addressed at the city council. I think they're just letting it happen, which was maybe fine until there was a stabbing a week ago, and maybe we realized something needs to be done.
Wait, Dan, one other quick question for you. We now have just one chief of police and 2 lieutenants, and so our command staff are down dramatically. One of our lieutenants has been assigned only to work on getting our department accredited. This accreditation process, my recollection when I looked at this accreditation process, like I knew nothing about our department being accredited or not accredited. One of the first requirements of getting accredited was making sure your police department was handicap accessible. If anyone knows City Hall and where a police department is located, just getting that done would be like next to impossible. And so when I looked at, all the things that had to be done, the time, effort, work, money, the amount of stuff that would have to go into it to become accredited and meet all the requirements, it just wasn't worth it to be able to have that accreditation. But I just think that taking one of the two lieutenants we have and assigning them exclusively to that, that doesn't make sense to me. But maybe maybe I don't understand the benefits of being accredited enough to know why he would do that.
Well, a department the size of Saratoga in such a significant community in the state, I think, should be accredited. As far as your point of taking a supervisor off the road to do that does not make sense. There are outside organizations the city can hire. They don't come cheap. That can help you through the accreditation process, and that can put the lieutenant largely back on the streets. Until you said that, I did not know that the command. I knew with the assistant chief issue, but we got one chief and two lieutenants, and that's their entire command. That is paltry. That is paltry. It's setting them up to fail. I did not know that. That is horrible, actually.
I know. I mean, just this idea that you could, if he had hired all these younger new officers, they still need leadership. You need leadership. You need management, especially in law enforcement. I mean, it's such a hard job, and it's such a challenging job. You come out of the academy, you're brand new. You need that leadership and that management and guidance. And with the amount of work and how overwhelmed those two lieutenants and our chief are, I mean, they can't be there in that way. And they're just set up for total failure.
Wow, I did not know that. Every piece of news I'm hearing is bad, right? It's just the attritions, the paltry levels of command staff, the reassignment of the assistant chief. I don't want to predict doom and gloom, but this is just setting up for bad things to happen.
Well, I got to hand it quickly to Officer Glenn Barrett, because he is our school resource officer in the high school. He's our one school resource officer in the high school. He does an amazing job. He's dealt with a lot this year with the issues we've had at school. He's also going to be one of only two people we are able to give to the track this year to do, all the safety and stuff that we need at the track, from pedestrian crossings and traffic management. We have so few people. We are only going to be able to send two folks over there. One of them is going to be Officer Barrett. And so I just have to give Officer Barrett so much credit, because he has a big job, and it's very multifaceted. And he is, I am so deeply grateful for everything he does for the city, especially in these circumstances.
I've met him, but I can't say I know him well, but I've only heard good things about him. Adam, if you have something on this, please go ahead. Maybe we can shift to the 44th Senate District after Adam speaks.
No, I'm good, Dan. Let's segue.
Okay, great. Folks, there's something very unusual happening in electoral politics in this county. The newly mapped 44th Senate District covers all of Saratoga County and Niskayuna and Schenectady County. That's the whole district. The Saratoga's district now is a different number, goes all the way into Columbia County. So that's a major change. That's created two sets of primaries in each of the major primaries in each of the major parties. The Republicans, two veteran state senators, Jim Tedisco and Daphne Jordan, are going head to head in what already looks like an ugly primary. It's ugly, and it's only days old. As far as the finger pointing, the accusations, and so forth on two people that used to be pretty tight, as I understand it.
And also, this is so out of character for the Republicans, right? This is what they don't do. They
can't afford. They can't afford to do it. Right?
Yeah.
They need every seat they can get, and they're cannibalizing each other. On the Democratic side, we have two Schenectady County politicians, Michelle Osterlich. Am I saying that? Osterlich?
Yes.
We were trying to figure out Thierce McKelman of Schenectady. Ms. Osterlich is on the county legislature. She's out of Niskayuna. Ms. McKelman is out of Schenectady. She unsuccessfully ran for mayor, lost by a pretty thin margin. And then both of them, oddly enough, did challenge Tedisco in Jim Tedisco's current district, which actually covers a sliver of Saratoga Springs. Jim Tedisco has beaten them both in separate elections, But anyway, that's what we have. We have Jim Tedisco against Daphne Jordan, two sitting state senators, and then two Schenectady County politicians, Ms. Austerlich and Ms. McKellen. And that's coming right up at the end of the month. That's going to be spirited because that's a condensed window, folks.
Spirited is a nice way to say it, Dan. I was shocked when I started seeing what was going on between Jim Tedisco and Daphne Jordan. I have not been a fan of Daphne Jordan. I don't see a lot of action from her. I don't see her getting a lot of stuff done. I think she I've never been very impressed with what she does in office. I think Jim Tedisco is great. They had an endorsement meeting for with the Republicans for between Daphne and Jim. Jim Tedisco did get the Republican endorsement. The way they handled that in terms of how they reacted, I thought was really telling. And I don't know a whole ton about either one of them in this dynamic, but Jim Tedisco was very respectful and grateful to get the endorsement. Daphne Jordan came out swinging and basically said that they had not given people enough notice for the meeting. There weren't enough people there. Like it was kind of like a setup for her to lose, and she was going to like fight like hell and not back down. And I just, again, that's certainly not good for the Republican Party. But I thought that Jim came out looking pretty good in terms of like how he was talking about it. And certainly, if I was a voter, I would be more inclined to vote for him simply based on how he's handling the current dynamic and kind of taking the higher road.
Are you not a voter?
In a primary, Republican primary? No.
Okay, all right.
No.
The one dynamic about this is whichever Democrat wins the primary, and if she should win the general election, we're going to have a state senator who's not from this county. Yet the district covers the whole county. That's not unheard of. Joe Bruno was from Troy, or outside of Troy actually, and but he was good to Saratoga Springs. So we're going to have somebody that is largely, if the Democrat wins, and I'm not saying the Republican or Democrat should win, but we're going to have somebody that's a stranger to this county. Jim Tedisco is not from this county, but he's well known. He's a regular at the track. Daphne Jordan's from Half Moon, so that they are known entities. The other two aren't. That to me adds a dynamic that we haven't seen a lot of.
Michelle is pretty known here. I actually met her the other day. I was out protesting the Roe v. Wade situation, and she was on what I call Democracy Corner, which is outside the post office on Broadway. She's pretty connected with Joanne Yepsen and that part of the city Democratic Committee, which to me isn't a great thing because that's not a part of the Democratic Committee that I love. I don't like their approach, but who knows? I didn't get to really talk to her, but she definitely has some connections and relationships with the city Democrats in Saratoga Springs. So there's that.
Adam, what do you got on that?
You know what? I'll wait for the general election. We'll let these party politics beat themselves up, and then.
Oh, come on! This is fun. Actually, it's there is a problem with it. I'm going to bring it up in cheers and jeers.
Hey, any thoughts on the Elise Stefanik race, just in general? Have you guys been following it all? I think it's it's pretty wild how she's risen in the ranks in the Republican Party nationally.
Yeah, she's certainly fostering the gossip about her being a potential vice presidential candidate.
Yeah, that is also my prediction. Adam, she's become. I'm sure you probably know this. She is the House Minority Speaker now. She was they ousted Liz Cheney, and it's now Elise Stefanik. Trump, loves her, and I'm predicting a Trump presidential candidacy with an Elise Stefanik vice president as the candidate.
Yeah, I actually went to high school with Elise Stefanik and Melissa DeRosa. Melissa DeRosa.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it was Cuomo's. She was Cuomo's chief of staff.
Weren't they buddies?
At one point, they were buddies. I think they went. They went to each other's weddings, or one went to the other wedding, and then once COVID hit and Cuomo and Trump started going at it, they fell each other's good graces pretty quickly. My only thought about the again being a rhino. If people don't know a Republican name against the last the Republican presidential administration. I don't know how much the Trump's hold on the Republican Party is how much is that is slipping. you saw it in the Georgia elections. Trump endorsed candidates got trounced nearly 2-1. So it's Lee Stefanik is definitely in that Trump Republican corner. And whether the Republican Party and boy, it's 5 years now since kind of Trump took office. And I always expected at some point the Republican Party to fall out of good graces with his brand of politics. It never really happened. But are we starting to see that shift away from that Trumpism? And what scares me and what I just don't like about this country's politics is the primaries, right? Because to win the primaries, you have to appeal to the base. And appealing to the base tends to be the more extreme, the more segregated, the more far out side of the base. So while I think Biden largely got elected because he was electable. He was kind of seen as a moderate. Whether either party puts out a moderate next election. Real quick, I know we're getting to national politics, but do any of you see any Biden running again? I mean, he says he's open to it, but. Yeah.
He's going to run for a second term.
You think so?
I don't see that. I don't.
You don't see that happening?
I don't think so. I
just
think
so fragile, I guess.
Too many gaps.
Oh, guys. Well, just on the thing of primaries, we need open primaries. Open primaries and ranked choice voting, I think, are going to help our democracy immensely. And so those are two things I'm pretty passionate about. I also, just putting a quick plug, there's a group called Unite New York that I'm in. That its entire mission is basically, the two-party system is failing us. It has failed us. And I think it's certainly failed us in New York State. And so they are a different path forward that, puts partisanship aside and focuses on the things that, that are important to me, like, the economy, safety, just basic stuff. So for people who are frustrated with the two-party system and want to learn more about ranked choice voting and open primaries and that kind of stuff, go to Unite New York. There's a lot of good information there. But those, to me, are the kind of steps we need to take to address these kind of systemic issues we have in politics right now and the lack of choices, the lack of moderate choices.
Yeah, what amazes me as a Republican or a former Republican is not seeing no Republicans come out in favor of gun control. It blows my mind. How can you just see this happen day in and day out? These mass shootings and not saying, all right, something has to change, right? I understand it's not, there's no silver bullet. It's not just gun. It's not just mental health. But the Second Amendment literally has the word regulated in it, a well-regulated militia. And people will say, oh, well, that meaning has changed over the years. And it doesn't mean what. Well, certainly the word arms has changed too, right? If you want to tell me the word regulated has changed, arms have certainly changed in the last 200 years. So if you are a purist, you can't say, well, this word means the same thing, but I don't like this word, so this word's changed.
It's always been a living, breathing document. I mean, that's how our Supreme Court has always treated it. It's a living, breathing, evolving document up until this Roe v. Wade decision. And so, I mean, Dan, you'd probably have better insight than me on that.
Well, I want to respond to what Em said. I had understood at some point in the past week there was some bipartisan effort to come up with some gun control legislation.
Dan, I think it's just a stall tactic, right? Because the way the Senate meets during the summer, it's something that people could say we're doing something, but I don't think there's much hope for any meaningful change to come out of this. I think it's a hey, listen, we're doing something, we're meeting, but people get into the summer and then they kind of forget about it. Now they're going to be reminded when the next mass shooting happens, which history has told us is not that far away.
You guys, why are we the only country that has this problem? Like, why are we the only country with this issue?
The amount of guns and the access to guns, I guess, would be the clear answer.
Yeah,
right.
I'm all for good guys with guns, but you shouldn't. If you push,
I mean, this I don't know who's a good guy anymore. I don't even know.
Somebody who's trained, somebody who has the training to and a comprehensive background check. Those are the good guys.
It shocks me how the NRA, which is a bankrupt organization that is close to having its leaders get arrested, is somehow running this country and running and this is not so pro gun control. This is there has to be a very well thought out plan, but some level of gun control, has to happen, but not as much as the left thinks. They go too far. The SAFE
Where
Act
does the
poorly
left
designed, poorly planned, but there certainly has to be gun control needs to be a significant part of the equation. To have an 18-year-old have access like that is crazy.
How about our neighbors to the north who are just like, okay, right now we're putting a moratorium on all guns in Canada? I was like, wow, that just seemed really easy what they just did, and made us look like total assholes, to be honest with you. And I don't like being embarrassed by the Canadians. Okay, like if they can handle this, what the hell is wrong with us? What the hell is wrong with this country?
They don't have our Constitution.
I want to take every single legislator in Washington, D.C., fire the fucking all of them. Sorry, language. They all need to go. They're all so obsessed with getting reelected and losing their positions and their power and their influence and their money and their PAC support and their NRA support, whatever, that they're too afraid to come out with fucking gun control. They should all be goddamn fired. I am done with all. DC is a cesspool of people who are dysfunctional, and their dysfunction is causing our kids to die every fucking day, and they should all be fired. I'm sorry.
What are we, 24, 48, 72 hours from the next shooting? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, there was one last night. I can hardly watch the news anymore. I'm so depressed and demoralized and distraught over seeing this news every day. I can hardly watch it.
Do we want to, we're almost in cheers anyway. You want to transition with cheers and cheers, wind this down, or do I don't.
Sure. You know what? I've got a little cheer. Can I kick off with our cheer and jeer here?
Let's cheers. Don't steal mine.
Okay, my cheer and jeer. My cheer and jeer is for Johnny Depp. Is my cheer this week, and I know you guys are all going to make fun of me. I am not someone who followed Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. I am not someone who follows trials and stuff like that. A couple weeks ago, I was like, I wonder what's going on with that Johnny Depp thing. 72 hours later, I emerged from YouTube and it became like Nancy Grace following this trial. I was a little obsessed, but I just have to say that jury got it right. They got it right. And I am just like, yay, go Johnny, yay, this was the right thing. I'm so happy that the verdict was what it was. And so that is my really cheesy cheer for the week. My jeer, I feel like I just did for the whole other part of the podcast. So I'm not even going to jeer because I was negative Nancy today. But yay, that was my cheer.
I'll jump in, Adam, if you want me to.
Go ahead, Dan.
I've got a cheer. It involves a sad story. Jessica Hildenbrandt from Ballston Spa disappeared back in 2019. Found some remains in Vermont this week, and this is a cheer for the Vermont authorities for making an arrest in her 2019 disappearance and murder. I'm going to say her name again. It's important. She should not be forgotten. Jessica Hildenbrandt from Ballston Spa. They made an arrest. I tend to believe that they got it right. I hope they get a conviction out of this so that some justice is served. So good for the Vermont police and prosecutorial authorities for making this arrest 3 years later. A jeer, and I said it, I mentioned that it was fun, but to Senators Jordan and Tedesco, the sniping and the whining about the politics and the endorsement and the committees, knock it off, okay? Start talking about issues important to Saratoga County and Schenectady County and the whole region and the whole state for that matter. Stop talking about the politics and start talking about issues.
Cheers to that.
All right, I guess my turn. So I'll start with my cheers. And as probably most people know, June is Pride Month.
I was just going to say that.
There we go. And I saw Saratoga Pride, the calendar they put out, and of all the events in June, and I'm just amazed. It's amazing. So I just want to go over their calendar of everything that's going on because it's wild. So on the 1st, they have a Pride flag raising. On the 3rd, they have a Pride event at the Pitney Meadows Garden Club. On the 4th, they have a Pride hike and a Pride brunch at Saratoga Winery. On the 5th, they have a Pride bike ride. On the 10th, they have a garden club and a Pride Wilton open house at the YMCA. On the 11th, they have a Flag Day parade where the day, as a troop, they're marching in it. And they have a drag brunch on the 11th. On the 12th, they have can't read my handwriting, so I'll skip over that. On the 15th, you can go to the bread basket, and all the proceeds will be donated to Saratoga Pride, which I got to go to shout out to the bread basket for last Wednesday. They did an event for Ukraine,
Yes.
raised a bunch of money. It was really, it's a great organization, really a gem. And if you don't know more about what the bread basket does for the city and Hattie's and that
Amazing.
organization.
Yeah, look up Business for Good, people.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. They have the Pride Common Roots Happy Hour. At the 16th, they have a Pride Meet the Author event. The 17th, they have a Rainbow Garden Club and a red carpet reception, champagne reception, Robin, at that new Champlain place we talked about. On the 19th, they have a ghost tour. On the 24th, they have a Rainbow Club meet and greet and a Putnam Place parade. The 2 more on the 25th, they have the first annual Pride softball game, which, boy, that's gonna be fun. And on the 26th, they have another brunch. So, congratulations to Saratoga Pride for doing something as a straights. I would love to do all that stuff. I'm sure people can too, but we got to get together and have a softball game. And then, go ahead, Robin.
I just got to say, unveiling the Pride, I've worked with Saratoga Pride for a year and a half to do the Pride crosswalk that we have going into Congress Park.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And they were one of the best group of people I've ever worked with in Saratoga. They were just absolutely wonderful. And they have been doing incredible things with Saratoga Pride. And so shout out to Cindy Swadka and that whole team. They're awesome. And yay Pride Month. And check all those activities in the whole calendar. Go to Facebook. They have it posted everywhere, so you can check out all the events and attend.
I have a quick question for you too. Circus Cafe used to be known as a bit of a gay bar. Is there an establishment in Saratoga that is known as more of a gay establishment?
No, there was some at one point. I think pre-pandemic. I think Hattie's was doing like a regular monthly happy hour for Saratoga Pride, I think. And I think they're trying to bring that back a bit, but there's no that I know of established gay bar in Saratoga. Although it'd be nice to have one.
Yeah.
That's
my answer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but I think Saratoga Pride's doing an awesome job, and I love there's so many of these events are kid friendly, and you can take your family, and I plan on taking my daughter to the slow roll bike that they're having, the bike ride that they're having, but they're a great group to get involved with. So I'm glad you brought that up, Adam.
Yeah, and then so my GR, and first I just want to say, Commissioner Shangvi, she ran on the platform of gay tourism. She mentioned that multiple times during the campaign. So who knows? Maybe that'll fill some restaurants and hotels. So my GR is also Commissioner Shangvi, and as you know, she beat me that selection for Commissioner Finance. So is this small town me griping? Yes. Is it a big deal? Not at all. But Commissioner Shangvi was going to park in her spot. There was a car parked in her spot. She called 911, which she realized later probably was not the right use of 911. She went to the police department. Turns out it was Ron Kim's wife who was parked in her spot. It's just one of those things where, am I a little bit jaded? She beat me? Yes. So I'm going to bring it up. But again, it does not affect her. These are stupid small town politics we should be getting away from. Does not affect her ability to be a commissioner of finance for our fine city. I may have other policy issues that would speak to that. But as far as this little event goes, it's just something funny that I get to bring up now that you won, and I am being a talking head on a small podcast. So,
well, you know what? Let me offer Commissioner Sangvi. She can park in my parking spot in my driveway, which is 2 blocks from City Hall, any old time. Manita, you're welcome. You can park at 78 Caroline Street. If someone's in your spot, no problem. And also, 9 times out of 10, someone was in my spot too in City Hall. I don't know, those little signs, people just kind of ignore them. Yeah. Anyway, well, great podcast, you guys. It was so good catching up on all this stuff.
It's great.
Yeah, it was nice seeing you guys. So I guess we'll see you in a week.
Over and out.
All right. Stay charming, Saratoga.
Thank you for
Bye,
watching.
guys.
Take care.